Hey everyone, my name's Lily and I'm the book blogger behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm going to bring you the announcement video for my 12 books, 12 authors. If you didn't realize, in 2021 I did a project which was inspired by May from Forever and Everly. I'll leave May's link below, where I asked 12 friends what 12 books they would recommend to me, and I read them. I finished pretty early, but I had such a fun time with that project and I wanted to do a little twist on it. So I wanted to do 12 authors that I really love and what book they would recommend that I read. This is going to be really interesting because so many of these books are books that either I've heard about, books that I've never heard about, books that I'm intrigued about. Like, it's a whole mishmash of books that I'm, interested in. And also, the number one response I got from authors when I asked them, they were all like, it is so hard to think of a book to recommend you that you haven't read. So some of these ones are older books because as I responded, I said, yeah, I realized in the last couple of years, I've read a lot of books. A lot of books. I've read, I think, over 1,000 books in the last 3 or 4 years. I'll do a tally for you for my 2022 or my 2021 wrap up. But I've read a lot of books. So expect to see an interesting mix of books. The first one, which is the only one I have, I do want to track down other copies of these books, but I just got the last couple book recommendations in, and so I didn't have time to order these books. The only one that I have is Waist Tide, which is recommended by R.F. Gong. Basically, I did a conversation together where we talked, I'll link it below, where we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about representation, we talked about fantasy, and I was recommended this book. I also recommended a book. I can't remember which book I recommended, but I was recommended a book, and it was Waist Tide. I'm excited because this is a Asian authored sci-fi, I'm pretty sure. I think, yeah, an Asian authored science fiction novel. I love how some of the back quote says, a compelling reflection on a world defined by its waist, by The Guardian. I'm really excited for this one. Basically, after I was recommended this book by Rebecca, I just immediately bought it. And so I've had this on my shelf for a while. I don't know if you've seen it because it's a little bit higher than my normal YouTube setup, but it's also really gorgeous. It has like a great vibe to it, the cover. And so I'm really excited for this one because I really love sci-fi. I'm planning a whole kind of TikTok series where I'm recommending sci-fi books, basically kind of like, if you like blah, 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 then you should read this book, because sci-fi is not hyped enough as it should be. Or what did I just say? I think sci-fi is not as hyped as it should be. I'm not sure if I actually said that just now. And so I'm really excited for Waist Tide because it's starting early for 2022. By the way, if you didn't know, R.F. Kuang has written the Poppy War trilogy, which is absolutely fantastic. It owns my heart. I don't collect ARCs that much, or basically at all, but I do, or I have collected ARCs for 2 series. The first one is the Reader series by Tracy G, and the second one is the Poppy War series by R. Kwong. So I do collect those ones. I'm really excited. And also, my name is in the paperbacks. My blog name blurb is in the paperbacks, and so just like, the whole series means so much to me. Please read it if you are not familiar with it. Check out the trigger warnings too first, but please read it if you're not familiar with it. The next one is by Victoria Lee. Victoria recommended Detransition Baby. I've seen this everywhere and I'm so excited for it. Basically, I've seen it a lot on Instagram. Then I saw it on a Waterstones website and I was like, ooh, sprayed edges, maybe I should get it. I didn't actually get it because the shipping was really expensive. And then I saw it again in the Goodreads Choice Awards, or Goodreads, whatever they're called. So I was kind of like, all signs point to yes for Detransition Baby. I'm so excited because also Detransition Baby and the recommendation from Victoria, it came really quickly, in the sense like some of these other ones I've been recommended books and I had to be like, sorry, I've read that book already. But this one was kind of an instant suggestion, and so I'm so excited. It was kind of one of those coincidences, cosmic coincidences, where I'm kind of like, I've seen this book before and now I just need a push. I need a push to read it. So now I have it. Victoria has written The Fever King. Victoria also has written A Lesson in Vengeance. Both of these, and The Electric Air, which is the sequel to The Fever King. All of those fantastic. A Lesson in Vengeance gives you like dark queer academia vibes. It's amazing. The setting is fantastic. Also, the way that Victoria plays with unreliability. 2 thumbs up. The Fever King is also totally great. It's another queer fantasy. That was more like queer speculative fiction, but it talks about powers and how you wield your power and sort of who should have power, essentially. So both of those books and not both of those books, that series of books and that book are fantastic, and you definitely should check them out. The next one, I had Chloe Gong, who is the author of These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends, recommend me a book. Let me just start off by saying I love These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends. They are fantastic Romeo and Juliet retellings. Retellings. It's more than a retelling, okay? They're fantastic books. I feel like I hear everyone being like, oh, they're Romeo and Juliet retellings. Yes, there's a Romeo and Juliet retelling vibe to it, or aspect to it, but it is so much, it's 1920s Shanghai, rivals to potentially lovers, like mixed with, I can't actually say because it's spoiler territory, but it's amazing. This is another one where I've actually started collecting the special editions. My bookshelves are weeping for me right now. I have like the normal one, the Owl Crate one, and the Fairy Loot. I'm trying to track down Our Violent Ends Fairy Loot edition. I'm gonna try to see if I have any books that anyone wants, essentially, that I can try to trade for, because then the collection would be complete. I don't know why I said it like that. Anyway, Chloe recommended to me A Study in Charlotte, which I've been seeing more and more recently. I don't know if it's a resurgence of love for that series, but I'm really excited for it because it's a Sherlock Holmes take, or Sherlock Holmes spin-off. I'm looking at the synopsis right now. It's not necessarily, yeah, it's a gender bent, I feel like, Sherlock Holmes kind of aspect or retelling. I've seen it a lot recently, mostly because Chloe talks a lot about A Study in Charlotte. But I'm excited for this one because it's a series, and I really love Sherlock Holmes, not retellings, I don't know what the word for it is, Sherlock Holmes takes, essentially. I really love them. I've loved A Study in Scarlet, which I get mixed up with this one all the time, but I'm pretty sure it's A Study in Scarlet. Yeah, A Study in Scarlet Women, sorry, by Sherry Thomas. I've really liked that one. I've really loved another Sherlock Holmes take that I cannot remember. But anyway, it's like a little, not pet peeve and not guilty pleasure. It's like a little side interest that I have, Sherlock Holmes takes, and so I'm super excited for A Study in Charlotte. The next one is Roshani Chop. She recommended the Scorpio races to me. Basically, I was on the street team for the Gilded Wolves, which owns my entire heart. It is a group heist fantasy novel series about group heists, but also about kind of delving into each of these people in the group, which are, each of those characters just like have a little piece of my heart clutched in their fist. And what I really loved about Roshani's book is that she talks a lot about like the idea of objects and the idea of thievery, acquisition, and who should have these objects, because a lot of these objects come from maybe collectors' homes, some of them maybe museums, I can't remember exactly. But that was fantastic, and I brought it up to Roshani in this Skype call that I won as being part of the Gilded Wolves street team, and she recommended to me the Scorpio races, which she said gave her similar vibes to kind of what we were talking about, and this idea of, yeah, acquisition and sort of the loaded acquisition. I don't actually, here, I'll just look it up. I have not read anything else by Maggie Stiefvater. And the Scorpio races came out in 2011, so very late, or not late, but earlier than some of the other books that I'm talking about. And yeah, so basically, like the title, you know, might give you those vibes, it's basically a competition where everyone has to hold on to their water horses. Keep hold of their water horses. Keep hold of their water horses long enough to make it to the finish line. So I'm very interested in that. It also has a competition. Roshani's, or the Gilded Wolves, doesn't necessarily have there is a competitive aspect to it, so I guess that's also why it's similar. So I'm really excited for that one because I feel like I've heard so many things about the Scorpio races, but I've never read it. So interesting, because I feel like for Maggie Stiefvater books, I hear a lot about the Raven cycle more, but I think that Roshani's not the first one to recommend me the Scorpio races, so I'm interested to see what I think of that one. The next one is Rebecca Coffin Duffer recommended to me. By the way, I'm just always looking down at the list of books that have been recommended to me. That's why I'm looking down. But basically, Beware the Wild was written by Natalie C. Parker, and it's supposed to be, I'm pretty sure... Okay, so Natalie C. Parker's debut. I've read Stiefvater by Natalie C. Parker, which is why Rebecca sent me a list of a few ones, and so I picked this one because I've read Stiefvater by Natalie C. Parker, and I really loved it. I need to finish the Stiefvater series. But this is Natalie C. Parker's debut, and I'm really excited for this one because it's supposed to be, first of all, it's their debut, so I wanted to kind of go back and see how I felt about it. And it says, it has a fantasy vibe to it. I'm pretty sure, I think it's like a fantasy. Anyway, the tagline on the front cover says, the most dangerous secrets are the ones we forget. So basically, her brother runs into the swamp and then no one remembers that he exists. So that's definitely a fantasy vibe to me. And I'm just really excited for that one. And as I said, Natalie C. Parker's debut. Rebecca wrote Crown Chasers and Thronebreaker. I'm so excited. I love Crown Chasers so much. It's this queer YA sci-fi, which kind of gives me similar vibes to the Gilded Wolves in the sense that there's not archaeological competition, but like treasure hunting vibes meets competition. It is really fabulous. If you're a fan of YA sci-fi, you definitely have to read it because it's on the top. Creme de la creme. It's one of my favorite YA sci-fis. It's also duology, and the sequel's out now. I have not read the sequel yet, so that's certainly something that I'm gonna do. It's because I didn't have my copy. I actually pre-ordered my copy from Rebecca's local indie, basically, and so I haven't gotten it yet, but soon I will be reunited with it, and then I will read it. The next one is that Tori Bovalino. Tori wrote The Devil Makes Three, recommended to me The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gould. I think it's The Dead in the Dark. I'm looking everything up while we speak. Yeah, The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gould. Tori wrote, I'm looking at it now, The Devil Makes Three, which is fantastic dark academia. It like made me shiver. It made me go like, oh. It has kind of a deal with the devil vibes to it. It's not the actual devil necessarily, but deal with a demon more likely. And that was so beautifully done because I have a really, it's another kind of my pet interest in deals with demons / deals with the devil. I think it's really interesting to see what people will sort of sacrifice and what they want to get in return. I don't know if anyone else is also intrigued by that like me, but I am. And so she recommended The Dead in the Dark, which actually was perfect timing because I had the audiobook of The Dead in the Dark to listen to as an e-arc, and then it expired and I forgot to download it. I couldn't even believe it. I forgot to download it. So basically, I'm really excited to read this debut. It's supposed to be a YA queer fantasy, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's, sorry, I had to read like the entire synopsis to make sure. It's supposed to be a YA queer fantasy. I'm really excited for it because A, the cover gave me serious kind of spooky vibes, and based on the synopsis, which it says, is about the things that lurk in dark corners, the parts of you that can't remain hidden, and about finding home in places and people you didn't expect. So I'm really excited for this one. As I said, I wanted to read it, and just it expired. So I learned my lesson for the future. But anyway, when Tori recommended that one to me, I was like, yes, yes. Tori also recommended to me Lake's Edge, which also is really intriguing to me because I saw it in the Owl Crate box for September, I think. September or October. No, I think September. For September. And that was also interesting to me, but I was like, ooh, I could just knock off something on my NetGalley list. So I picked The Dead in the Dark. Tracy G ended up recommending to me The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories by Ken Liu. I really am excited for this because I've had this on my shelf, well, in my secret shelf that you actually can't see, on my secret shelf for years, okay? I think I got it as a birthday present in 2019, okay? So when Tracy emailed me this recommendation, I was like, yes, I need to read it. I need to get it off my shelf. It's on my secret shelf that I actually can't access right now because it is a mess. So that's why I don't have it up for you. But I've really been intrigued by The Grace of Kings, which I think is Ken's other sci-fi series. He's also, Ken has also translated a bunch of things, which I think I've actually read one of the translated ones. But I'm intrigued by this one because I think it will give me kind of like a little primer into Ken's writing before I sort of, you know, decide to read The Grace of Kings. I think that's what it's called. Because those are hefty books. I actually own books 1 and 2. And they are chunky books. Like, we're talking like this, okay? The paperback one is chunky. So is the hardback one. Like, they are big. So I basically was like, okay, let me just read this one and see if I want to read those other books. Be like a little tester, essentially. Tracy has written the Reader Trilogy. She's also written We Are Not Free. She is also releasing 1,000 Steps into the Night. The Reader, one of my top favorite series. As I said earlier, I've collected the arcs for The Reader, so you know how much that means to me because I've collected the arcs. It talks about the transformative power of reading and how much it can make a difference to not only you and also the community and society. This idea of kind of this switch between oral storytelling and sort of, you know, stories in a book that you can read. It's fabulous. There's a lot of sort of beautiful character work, a lot of amazing action. There's just so much to love in the Reader Trilogy. If you haven't read it, please read it. It's amazing. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for this recommendation. Natasha Nyan has written the Girls of Paper and Fire trilogy, which I adore to pieces. I love it so much. I feel like what I've loved so much about this project is I've been really able to ask some of my absolute favorite authors to recommend me books. And Girls of Paper and Fire is this queer fantasy about trauma, about healing, about love, about revenge. The sequel came out in November of 2021, and I have not been able to kind of like emotionally recover since. It is just such a fabulous series. If you love queer fantasy, 100% must read. And Natasha recommended me Codename Verity, which, why does it say it's the third one of Codename Verity? I thought the Codename Verity was a standalone at some point. I don't know. I'll have to figure out if I have to read 1 and 2 for that, or I'll have to ask Natasha. Codename Verity seems to be an historical fiction series. It takes place during 1943 in Nazi-occupied France. I'm really excited because I haven't read historical fiction in a while, and I'm talking about sort of like in World War II historical fiction in a while. I don't even remember the last one I read. The last one that I read was All the Light We Cannot See. So I haven't read historical fiction set in this time period, also in like Europe in a while, and so I'm really excited for Codename Verity. And also I feel like I've heard it over and over again recently, and also a lot in comp titles. So it seems really popular, and I'm excited to kind of read it and put it into my little arsenal of books that people keep talking about that I know, and that I sort of have read. Next recommendation I have is from Joan He, and Joan wrote Descendants of the Crane and The Ones We're Meant to Find. I'll just talk about The Ones We're Meant to Find because that one is YA sci-fi at its peak. It is amazing. It talks about sisters. It also talks about environmental climate destruction, and it talks about technology. Like, it is just everything I want in a YA sci-fi. All of these themes about kind of ethics and morals in sci-fi and in technology and in the future, but also about sisterhood. Like, it is just amazing. And Joan recommended to me the first book in the Expanse series. I don't actually know what it's called, honestly. I mean, you'll see the cover here, but the Expanse is a really long series. I think there's like 12 or 13 books, and I'm really excited for this one because I'm pretty sure I own the first one in the Expanse series. I think Orbit sent it to me a long time ago. And also, I'd been kind of interested in watching the TV show. So, you know, I'm going to be like a good little bookworm, and I'm going to read the first book in the series first before I jump into the TV show. And so I'm so excited that Joan recommended this to me because it was another one of kind of like, happy universe coincidence. I'm so excited about that. I own it somewhere. I think I don't know. I saw that there's like a 10th anniversary edition, which looks really, really beautiful. So if I don't own it, I'm gonna pick that one up. This was another cosmic coincidence. This whole list was really fabulous to me because there were so many cosmic coincidences that I'm really excited for. The next one is that Katie Zhao recommended One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Katie has written The Dragon Warrior, The Fallen Hero, and also How We Fall Apart. Those are all 3 amazing books. The Fallen Hero and The Dragon Warrior are some of my favorite middle grade fantasy. Please read them, because Katie said that if we all really read them and love them, there's a possibility that if they do super well, she might be asked to write other ones in that series/world. So please read them. It is so beautifully done about these characters and these siblings, specifically in The Fallen Hero and The Dragon Warrior. Amazing. How We Fall Apart is also fabulous. If you loved Ace of Spades, How We Fall Apart is a great like companion sort of a dark academia novel to go with it. It was so beautifully rooted in this immigrant mentality as well. I'll link below a article that, or not an article, a guest post that Katie did on my blog about the toxic nature of academia, and also what it means as well to be like an immigrant tied into that identity. And so both of those are so well developed in How We Fall Apart. And so Katie recommended One True Loves, which is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Basically, we were talking about Taylor Jenkins Reid, and we were talking about we were talking about Malibu Rising. And so Katie was like, oh, have you read One True Loves, which is also a Taylor Jenkins Reid book? And I said, no, I've only read Malibu Rising and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And so Katie recommended to me One True Loves, which I like going back and reading authors' previous books that I haven't read from them to witness their writing evolution and see kind of how they've changed as a writer. So I'm so excited for One True Loves. The next one is that Rachel Lynn Solomon, who has written so many books that I really love. I'm just going to talk about Weather Girl because that comes out in January. Weather Girl is an adult romance between these 2 workers at like a weather station. I think they're both presenters on air. One is like a sports presenter and one is a weather presenter. And it's just amazing because I love both of the 2 main characters, Ari and Russell. They're amazing. They work so well as characters individually, but also so well in their romance together. And Rachel Lynn Solomon recommended to me The Lovely, Dark, and Deep, which I have to look up because I wasn't familiar with it. And I've been really happy with how many authors have recommended me books that I wasn't really aware of. The Lovely, Dark, and Deep is a debut novel by Amy McNamara, and it's talking about retreating from the world after losing everything and the connections that force you to rejoin it. So it seems to be also a little bit about grief and about trauma as well. And so I'm extremely interested in this one because I know nothing about it. I'm extremely interested in books I know nothing about, and so it's kind of rare also where I don't know absolutely anything about a book and I've never heard anything about a book. So ultimately that one just makes me so happy as a recommendation. And the last one is that Eric Smith recommended Tracked by Jenny Martin, which also I had never heard anything about. So I was really actually excited that both of these people recommended books I've never read. Eric Smith is the author of a lot of books. Don't read the comments as the one that I can think of. But the other one is You Can Go Your Own Way. I had to remember the song. You Can Go Your Own Way, which is this fantastic story about kind of second chance romance, friends to lovers, and also in a Philadelphia snowstorm. I really like these kind of dynamic between them. Eric is so good at writing character dynamic and character banter. And so that was fabulous to read. And Eric recommended to me Tracked by Jenny Martin, which I'm pretty sure gives me a sci-fi feel. Is it a sci-fi feel? It says a street rat empire. No, a street rat destroying empire. A corporately controlled castra. I'm thinking this is sci-fi, so I'm thinking this is amazing. I don't know anything about it. Here's the title. I'll obviously leave links below. But I'm so excited for this one to see. There's also racing. So all in all, very excited for this one. I'm so thankful to all these authors who recommended me books for this project. And yeah, I can't wait to start. Let me know if you've heard of any of these books down below, and also if you've read any of these authors' books, and I will hopefully see you in the first update where I have read at least one book. That would be great. So I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye!